GBS, group beta strep, and it is a bacteria. In fact, it lives in the gut of every human being. Your brand new baby, when they start to eat, will start to produce GBS of their own. So for the most part, it is a benign bacteria. Group beta strep, that's type B, not type A, is something that we're more concerned about in North America than they are in Africa, Asia, or Europe. Even though there are no high-risk factors for it, you may have a full-term baby, not a premature baby. Your bag of water wasn't ruptured for too long. It was less than 18 hours. You're actually quite healthy otherwise. But we notice that 1 in 200 babies in which there are no symptoms, no risk factors, those babies end up with severe respiratory distress syndrome. We notice that they could have seizures. They end up in the NICU. And yes, they could die of sepsis, either early onset, right after the first week after birth, or late onset, a couple weeks or later after birth. And what was the guilty culprit when we did cultures of the baby's blood, of the baby's orifices, and of the cerebral spinal fluid around the baby's spine when we did a lumbar puncture? The guilty culprit was GBS. Imagine. So some of those premature babies tend to have it. Their immune system is not as strong. If your water's been broken for over 24 hours and you start to have a fever, often GBS was the culprit. It lives in our digestive tract, but it can hop over from the rectum to the vagina, which is the next door neighbor. It can also hop over to the bladder, and through the urethra can end up in your bladder. When it is in the bladder, we notice that you're colonized, meaning that it's everywhere in your pelvis, and chances are, even if we treat it during pregnancy, if it's in the urine, it will be back again at birth. Those folks are strongly encouraged. People who have had a urinary infection where GBS was the culprit, people who have had a baby in the past who had newborn sepsis that was related to GBS, someone who's having a premature baby, all of those folks, if you had a fever in labor, are strongly encouraged to have antibiotics because we know 9 times out of 10 the guilty culprit is GBS. But what if everything's normal with you? What if you, like many other parts of the world, not North America, are fine? We know that maybe 1 in 200 might get sick. You might think you're one of the 199, and you will not get sick, and your baby will not get sick. We never know. Most of the world, and most of us in North America, up until about 2005, we did not automatically give preventative antibiotics for people. We did not automatically do a swab that goes into the outer third of the vagina, across the perineum, and circles around the anal area. We didn't do it for everybody. Now we do, because of the increase in prevalence that we're having. Because 1 in 200 is actually fairly high stakes that your baby might be affected even though you have no symptoms. So you're going to be offered a group beta strep or a GBS swab. You can do it yourself, or you can have the midwife do it for you. And it's the outer third of the vagina with a Q-tip. It's nothing really fancy. We can trust you to do it in the bathroom. And, we know that, notice it could be in the vagina or around the outer part of the rectum that is very close to the vagina. And we send it to the lab. If it cultures positive for GBS, you will be offered the opportunity to take antibiotics in your labor, even though you might not have any symptoms or any risk factors. You may decide, yes, I'll go with the flow. The community standard is to take these antibiotics as a prevention. You may decide, no, I want to wait to see if there's symptoms or if I develop one of the high-risk problems. Or you may think to yourself, whether it's positive or not, I don't want it. And some people make that choice. That's the way the balance goes for them. You may decide too that you just want to wait and see to see how labor unfolds. The one thing to remember though that is sometimes much more difficult to start treating after the birth rather than during the birth. So if we wait until the antibiotics start, you may deliver really, really quickly after that, and the baby won't be able to have one dose of medicine and then 4 hours later deliver. It might be a little bit late. So we might be checking that baby frequently for the temperature, for white blood cells rising, and you'll be consulting with the pediatrician after the baby's born. So those are just some of the pros and cons, and it is the community standard, but with midwifery care, we want you to make an informed decision about whether to do it or not. We don't know for sure if having yogurt during your pregnancy or taking probiotics in the many different forms like kimchi or different soy products or miso, we don't know if all of those things can change the human biome enough to prevent GBS from going to the vaginal area. But there's a lot of research going on, and maybe you'll be invited to participate in that research.